You know what hit me when I was lying in that hospital bed, completely paralyzed from the waist down? It was this stark realization. The world doesn't pause for your pain. The sun still makes its daily ascent. People still rush through their routines. Bills still pile up, demanding payment. And life, stubbornly, just keeps pushing forward. In that moment of absolute crushing helplessness, when my entire world felt like it had imploded, I stumbled upon the most powerful, undeniable truth of human existence. No one will save you. No one can truly fight your battles. No one can magically heal your wounds. Only you can. My name is Muniba Mazari, and today, I want to share with you not just my personal story, but a universal truth that beats within every single one of us. It's the truth that you are your own hero, your own rescuer, your own fiercest ally in this wild journey called life. Just 11 years ago, I was a completely different person. I was someone who believed happiness resided outside myself, in other people's approval, in perfect circumstances, in having everything unfold exactly as planned. Yes, I was an artist, but more than that, I was waiting. Waiting for life to happen to me, waiting for opportunities to simply knock on my door, waiting for someone else to validate my dreams. Then came that brutal day in February 2008. A car accident. It shattered everything in a matter of seconds. My spinal cord was crushed, my lungs punctured, my liver ruptured, and my arm fractured in countless places. The doctors looked at me, grim-faced, and delivered the verdicts. I would never walk again. I would never have children. They told me to prepare for a life utterly different from anything I'd known. But you know what they didn't tell me? They didn't tell me that this very moment would be the true beginning of my life. They didn't tell me that sometimes you have to lose absolutely everything to finally find yourself. They didn't tell me that the woman I was about to become would be stronger, more resilient, and more powerful than I had ever dared to imagine. In those first agonizing weeks in the hospital, I waited. I waited for someone to fix me. I waited for a miracle to appear. I waited for the doctors to admit it was all a terrible mistake. I waited for my husband to stand by me, through thick and thin. I waited for my family to carry me through this crushing darkness. And what happened? Some people genuinely tried to help, and for that, I am truly grateful. But ultimately, I realized that no one could do the real work for me. No one could force me to accept this new reality. No one could inject hope into my veins. No one could rebuild my shattered life. Only I could. This is the first lesson I desperately want you to grasp today. Waiting for rescue is the quickest way to stay trapped. When you sit there, passively waiting for someone else to solve your problems, to chase your dreams for you, to make you happy, to imbue your life with meaning, you are essentially giving away the most precious thing you possess, your power. I see so many people living their lives stuck in waiting mode. Waiting for the perfect job to magically land in their lap. Waiting for a perfect relationship to heal all their old wounds. Waiting for their parents to finally approve of their choices. Waiting for society to change so they can finally feel accepted. Waiting for the economy to improve before they dare to start their business. Waiting. But here's what I learned, lying in that hospital bed, staring at the ceiling for months on end. The cavalry isn't coming. There is no grand rescue mission. No magical solution will suddenly materialize from the outside. If you want your life to change, if you want to conquer your challenges, if you want to seize your dreams, you have to stop waiting and start moving. Now, I'm not saying this to discourage you. Quite the opposite. I'm saying this to liberate you. Because once you accept that you are your own hero, once you stop desperately searching for external salvation, something absolutely incredible happens. You discover that you already possess everything you need, right there within you. When I finally accepted that I would never walk again, I didn't just accept defeat. I accepted responsibility. I accepted that this was my new reality, and it was entirely up to me to forge something beautiful from it. That's when I stopped being a victim of my circumstances and truly began to be the architect of my new life. I vividly remember the day I decided to paint again. My right arm was still so weak, mangled from the injuries, but my determination burned. I picked up that brush, and my hand trembled so violently I could barely hold it steady. The first few strokes were awful, truly awful. I felt frustration, anger, disappointment wash over me. But you know what? I kept painting, not because someone told me to, not because anyone was cheering me on, but because I decided this was who I wanted to be, a painter, an artist, someone who creates beauty despite the chaos. And let me tell you something about taking ownership of your life. It is both the most terrifying and the most liberating thing you will ever do. It's terrifying because you can no longer blame anyone else for your situation. You can't hide behind excuses. You can't wait for perfect conditions. But it's liberating because you realize that if you're the one responsible, then you're also the one with the incredible power to change things. I want you to really think about your own life right now. What are you waiting for? What excuse are you clinging to that's preventing you from taking action? What external factor are you blaming for your lack of progress? I'm not minimizing your challenges. Believe me, I know what real challenges look like. But I am asking you to shift your focus from what's happening to you to what you're going to do about it. You see, life doesn't ask for your permission before it throws curveballs your way. It doesn't consult your schedule before it unleashes challenges. It doesn't care about your meticulously laid plans when it decides to test your strength. But here's the beautiful, profound thing. You always have a choice in how you respond. When my marriage crumbled after my accident, I could have become bitter. I could have blamed my disability. I could have convinced myself that I was unlovable. Instead, I chose to see it as an opportunity to unearth my own inherent strength. I learned that I didn't need someone else to complete me. I was already whole. When I was told I couldn't have biological children, I could have surrendered my dream of motherhood. Instead, I chose to adopt. My son, Nail, didn't come from my body, but he came straight from my heart. And let me tell you, the love I feel for him is no less powerful because he's not biologically mine. Sometimes the most beautiful things in life emerge not from what we expected, but from what we bravely choose to embrace. This brings me to another crucial point. Your limitations don't define you. Your response to them does. I am not defined by my wheelchair. I am defined by what I choose to do while sitting in it. You are not defined by your past mistakes, your current circumstances, or other people's fleeting opinions of you. You are defined by the choices you make right now, in this very moment. I've had people tell me, Muniba, you're so inspiring because you overcame your disability. But that's not quite right. I didn't overcome my disability. I integrated it into my life story. I made it part of my narrative, not the end of it. The wheelchair didn't become my limitation, it became my platform. From this chair, I've painted artwork that has touched thousands of people. From this chair, I've delivered speeches that have motivated audiences around the world. From this chair, I've raised my son and shown him that strength manifests in countless forms. You have challenges in your life. We all do. Maybe it's a physical limitation. Maybe it's financial hardship. Maybe it's a difficult family dynamic. Maybe it's your own internal battles with mental health. But I want you to truly understand this. Those challenges are not your ending. They are your raw material. They are what you get to work with to create something truly extraordinary. There's a beautiful Japanese art form called kintsugi, where broken pottery is repaired with gold lacquer. The philosophy behind it is that breakage and repair are an integral part of the object's history, not something to conceal. The final product is often more stunning than the original, precisely because the golden cracks become part of its unique, treasured story. That's precisely what we must do with our lives. We must take our broken pieces and repair them with the gold of our resilience, our courage, our unwavering determination. We must stop trying to hide our scars and instead let them become the most beautiful, compelling part of our story. But here's the thing about personal transformation. It's not a one-time event. It's not something that magically happens to you while you sleep. It's a daily choice. Every single day you wake up, you have to choose again. You have to choose hope over despair. You have to choose action over waiting. You have to choose growth over comfort. I remember there were days, especially in the beginning, when I would wake up and forget, just for a moment, that I couldn't walk. And then reality would hit me like a crushing wave. Some days I just wanted to stay in bed and wallow in self-pity. Some days I wanted to rage at the world for my pain. Some days I wanted to simply give up. But here's what I learned. You don't have to feel motivated to take action. You don't have to feel confident to try something new. You don't have to feel strong to do the right thing. You just have to decide that you're not going to let your fleeting feelings control your profound choices. On the days when I didn't feel like painting, I painted anyway. On the days when I didn't want to speak to audiences, I spoke anyway. On the days when I didn't feel like being a good mother, I showed up for my son anyway. Because I realized that discipline isn't about doing what you want to do. It's about doing what needs to be done, regardless of how you feel. And you know what happened? The more I took action despite not feeling like it, the more confident I became. The more I pushed through the discomfort, the stronger I grew. The more I chose courage over comfort, the more natural courage became for me. This is something I want you to deeply understand. You don't need to wait until you feel ready. You don't need to wait until you have all the answers. You don't need to wait until conditions are absolutely perfect. You just need to start where you are, with what you have, and trust that you'll figure it out along the way. When I started painting again after my accident, I had no idea if I would ever be good at it with my limited mobility. When I started speaking publicly, I didn't know if anyone would even want to hear what I had to say. When I decided to adopt Nail, I worried if I would be a good mother. I just knew that these were the things that mattered most to me, and I was willing to learn as I went. And that's another critical lesson. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to be willing to figure it out. Life is not about having a flawless plan. It's about being adaptable enough to handle whatever curveballs come your way. I've met so many incredibly talented people who never pursue their dreams because they're waiting for guarantees. They want to know for certain that they'll succeed before they even begin. But here's the unvarnished truth. There are no guarantees in life, except this one. If you don't try, you've already failed. The only way to guarantee failure is to never attempt. The only way to ensure you'll never reach your dreams is to never take that first crucial step toward them. The only way to make sure you'll never overcome your challenges is to never face them head-on. I want to tell you about a woman I met at one of my exhibitions. She approached me, tears welling in her eyes, and said, "Muniba, I've been telling myself for 5 years that I want to start my own business, but I keep waiting for the right time. Seeing your art, hearing your story, I realize I've just been making excuses. If you can create such beauty from a hospital bed, I can certainly start my business from my kitchen table." 6 months later, she sent me a photo of her storefront. She had stopped waiting and started acting. She had stopped looking for someone to give her permission and gave it to herself. She had stopped waiting for perfect conditions and made the absolute most of her current ones. That's the electrifying power of taking ownership of your life. When you stop waiting for external validation, external permission, external perfect timing, you suddenly realize that the power was always within you. You just had to be brave enough to wield it. Now, I want to address something important. When I say, no one will save you, only you can, I'm not suggesting you should never accept help from others. I'm not promoting isolation or stubborn, unyielding independence. What I am saying is that you cannot make other people responsible for your happiness, your success, your healing, or your dreams. Help is beautiful when it arrives. Support is wonderful when it's offered. Love is precious when it's genuine. But none of these things can substitute for your own unwavering commitment to yourself. None of these things can replace your own effort, your own choices, your own fierce determination to create the life you truly want. I've been incredibly blessed with people who have supported me along my journey. My mother, who never let me feel sorry for myself. My son, who reminds me daily what pure love looks like. Friends who believe in my work, audiences who resonate with my message. But at the end of the day, it was still me who had to pick up the brush. It was still me who had to find the courage to speak my truth. It was still me who had to choose hope over despair, day after day after day. And that's true for you too. People can encourage you, but they can't give you confidence. That has to bloom from within. People can support your dreams, but they can't chase them for you. That's your job. People can love you, but they can't make you love yourself. That's work only you can do. The most empowering realization you can have is this: if the solution to your problems lies within you, then you're never truly powerless. You might be challenged, you might be struggling, you might be afraid, but you are never powerless. Because as long as you can choose your response to any situation, you retain your power. Let me share with you a story about a young woman who attended one of my talks. She had been battling depression for years. She had tried therapy, medication, support groups, all helpful tools, but she was still waiting for something external to fix her. After my speech, she came up to me and said, "I keep waiting for depression to leave me alone so I can start living my life. But listening to you, I realize I've been thinking about this backwards. Maybe I need to start living my life and let depression figure out where it fits." 2 years later, she contacted me again. She hadn't been cured of depression. Mental health doesn't quite work that way. But she had learned to live with it, rather than being controlled by it. She had started the art therapy program she'd been dreaming about. She had moved to the city she'd always wanted to live in. She had built relationships that truly mattered to her. She stopped waiting for permission from her mental health and started creating a life that was worth fighting for every single day. That's what I mean when I say only you can save yourself. It's not about doing it alone. It's about taking responsibility for your own rescue mission. And here's something else I've learned. The very things that make you feel weak can, in fact, become your greatest sources of strength. My wheelchair, which initially felt like a cruel symbol of everything I had lost, has become the platform from which I share my message with the world. My inability to have biological children, which once felt like a devastating limitation, led me to the pure joy of adoption and showed me that love has absolutely nothing to do with DNA. What in your life feels like a disadvantage right now? What seems like an insurmountable obstacle? I challenge you to consider this. What if that very thing is actually preparing you for something far greater? What if your struggle is not your ending, but your magnificent beginning? I often think about all the times I wished things were different. I wished I could walk. I wished I had never been in that accident. I wished my marriage had survived. I wish things were easier. But you know what? If I could go back and change any of it, I wouldn't. Because every single challenge, every single loss, every single moment of searing pain has contributed to who I am today. And I genuinely like who I am today. This isn't about being grateful for trauma or pretending that pain is some kind of gift. This is about recognizing that you have the profound power to transform even your worst experiences into something meaningful. You have the ability to take what has hurt you and use it to help others. You have the strength to take what has broken you and rebuild something even more beautiful. But this transformation doesn't happen automatically. It doesn't happen just because time passes. It happens because you make a conscious choice to grow from your experiences, rather than just survive them. It happens because you decide that your story isn't ending with your challenge. Your challenge is merely the plot twist that makes your story richer, deeper, more interesting. I want to talk to you about fear, because I know fear is often what holds us back from truly taking ownership of our lives. Fear whispers that we're not strong enough, smart enough, capable enough to handle our own problems. Fear tells us that we need someone else to save us because we're simply not equipped to save ourselves. But here's what I've learned about fear. It's not your enemy, it's your compass. Fear points you directly toward what matters most to you. I was afraid to paint again because painting deeply mattered to me. I was afraid to speak publicly because having a voice profoundly mattered to me. I was afraid to adopt because being a mother mattered to me more than words could say. Fear doesn't mean you shouldn't do something. It often means you absolutely should do it, because the things that scare us are usually the very things that hold the power to utterly transform us. I remember the first time I was invited to speak to a large audience. I was terrified. I thought, who am I to stand in front of hundreds of people and tell them how to live their lives? I'm just a woman in a wheelchair who's trying to figure it out, just like everyone else. But then I realized, that's precisely why I needed to speak. Not because I had all the answers, but because I had learned that you don't need all the answers to take the next step. Not because my life was perfect, but because I had learned that perfection isn't the goal, progress is. That first speech was far from polished. I stumbled over words. My voice shook. I probably said, 100 times. But I spoke my truth, and people connected with that truth, because authenticity is infinitely more powerful than perfection. Because vulnerability is far more inspiring than invulnerability. And you know what happened? Each time I spoke, I grew a little braver. Each time I shared my story, I became a little more confident in my message. Each time I chose courage over comfort, courage became more natural, more inherent for me. This is how growth works. You don't become brave and then do brave things. You do brave things, and that makes you brave. You don't become confident and then take on challenges. You take on challenges, and that builds your confidence. You don't become strong and then face difficulties. You face difficulties, and that develops your strength. So stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting to feel qualified. Stop waiting to feel confident. Start where you are with what you have, and trust that the very act of starting will cultivate the qualities you think you need to finish. Let me tell you about the day I decided to become a motivational speaker. I was sitting in my art studio, deep in a painting, when a woman called me. She had seen my artwork online and asked if I would speak at her company's annual meeting. My first instinct was a resounding no. I thought, I'm an artist, not a speaker. I don't have training in public speaking. I don't have a degree in psychology or life coaching. Who am I to motivate anyone? But then I thought about all the people who had told me that my art inspired them, that my story gave them hope. I thought about all the young women who had reached out, saying they felt like giving up until they heard about my journey. I realized that my qualification wasn't a certificate on a wall. It was my lived experience and my willingness to share it vulnerably. That speaking engagement changed everything for me, not because I was perfect at it, but because I was real about it. I talked about my struggles, my fears, my failures, and my small victories. And people responded not to my expertise, but to my raw authenticity. That's when I learned that you don't need to be an expert to make a difference. You just need to be genuine. You don't need to have overcome everything to help someone else take their next step. You just need to be willing to share what you've learned along the way. And this brings me to another profoundly important point. Your purpose in life is not just about you. Yes, you need to save yourself. No one else can do that for you. But once you start doing the hard, beautiful work of rebuilding, healing, growing, and becoming, you'll discover that your journey has the incredible power to light the way for others. My accident wasn't just something that happened to me. It became something that could serve others. My art isn't just my personal expression. It becomes a source of inspiration for people who see it. My story isn't just my story. It becomes permission for others to write their own comeback stories. When you take ownership of your life, when you stop waiting for rescue and start doing the strenuous, rewarding work of self-rescue, you don't just transform your own life. You give others permission to transform theirs. You become living proof that it's possible. You become evidence that the human spirit is stronger, far stronger, than any human circumstance. I think about my son, Nail, and how he sees strength not as the absence of challenges, but as the steadfast decision to keep going despite them. He doesn't see my wheelchair as a symbol of limitation. He sees it as part of who his mother is. And his mother is someone who creates beautiful things and helps people believe in themselves. What example are you setting with your life? What message are you sending about what's truly possible? Are you showing the world that circumstances dictate destiny? Or are you demonstrating that we determine how we respond to our circumstances? Every time you choose hope over despair, you're casting a vote for the kind of world you want to live in. Every time you choose action over excuses, you're modeling what's possible for someone who's watching. Every time you choose growth over comfort, you're expanding the very definition of what it means to be human. But let me be absolutely clear about something. This is not about toxic positivity. This is not about pretending everything is fine when it's unequivocally not. This is not about suppressing your emotions or denying your very real pain. I have bad days. I have days when I cry. I have days when I feel a raging anger about my circumstances. I have days when I wish things were different. The critical difference is that I don't let those days define me. I feel my feelings fully, and then I choose my actions consciously. I acknowledge my pain without letting it become my identity. I honor my struggles without letting them become my excuses. There's a vast difference between feeling your emotions and being controlled by them. There's a difference between acknowledging your challenges and being utterly defeated by them. There's a profound difference between having a bad day and having a bad life. You are allowed to grieve what you've lost. You are allowed to feel angry about what's unfair. You are allowed to have days when you don't feel strong. But you are not allowed to use these feelings as reasons to stop trying. You are not allowed to use your pain as permission to give up on yourself. Because here's the thing about giving up, it doesn't actually stop the pain. It just ensures that the pain was for nothing. When you give up on your dreams, on your growth, on your healing, you don't eliminate suffering. You just make sure that your suffering doesn't serve any meaningful purpose. But when you keep going, when you keep trying, when you keep growing despite the pain, you transform your suffering into strength. You turn your wounds into wisdom, you convert your obstacles into opportunities. I want to tell you about a letter I received from a young man who had been in a motorcycle accident. He had lost his leg and was contemplating ending his life. He wrote to me, pouring out his heart, saying he couldn't see any point in living with his disability. He felt like his life was over at 23. I wrote back to him and said, "Your accident took your leg. Don't let your thoughts take your life. You are not your body parts. You are your spirit, your mind, your heart, your dreams. Those are all still intact. Your life is not over. It's just beginning in a new, powerful form." A year later, he sent me a photo of himself competing in a Paralympic swimming event. He had discovered that losing his leg had actually made him more aerodynamic in the water. What had seemed like an ending had become a vibrant new beginning. That's the power of perspective. That's the magic that happens when you stop seeing yourself as a victim of your circumstances and start seeing yourself as the undeniable hero of your own story. Your story is not over. Whatever chapter you're in right now, whether it's the chapter of loss, the chapter of struggle, the chapter of uncertainty, it is not the final chapter. You are still writing your story, and you get to decide how it unfolds from here. But you have to pick up the pen. You have to take responsibility for the next chapter. You have to stop waiting for someone else to write your story for you and start writing it yourself. And let me tell you something about the stories truly worth reading. They're not the ones where everything goes perfectly. They're not the ones where the hero never faces challenges. The stories that move us, that inspire us, that we remember long after we've heard them, those are the stories where someone faces seemingly impossible odds and finds a way to overcome them. Those are the stories where someone is knocked down again and again and finds the strength to get back up. Those are the stories where someone discovers that they were stronger, more resilient, more capable than they ever imagined. That's your story. You are the hero of a story worth telling. But heroes don't wait for rescue. They become the rescue. Heroes don't wait for perfect conditions. They make the absolute most of the conditions they have. Heroes don't wait for someone else to solve their problems. They develop the skills, the strength, and the wisdom to solve their own problems. And here's the beautiful irony. When you become your own hero, when you take full responsibility for your own rescue, you actually become more capable of genuinely helping others. When you're not desperate for someone else to save you, you can offer authentic, unconditional support to those around you. When you're not waiting for external validation, you can provide genuine encouragement to others. The people who make the biggest difference in the world are not those who have had easy lives. They're the ones who have faced difficulties and learned deeply from them. They're the ones who have been knocked down and developed an unshakable resilience. They're the ones who have experienced pain and transformed it into profound compassion for others. Your struggles are not disqualifying you from making a difference. They're preparing you for it. Your challenges are not evidence that you're weak. They're proof that you're being strengthened. Your obstacles are not signs that you're on the wrong path. They're confirmation that you're on a path worth walking. But you have to keep walking. You have to keep moving forward, even when you can't clearly see the destination. You have to keep believing in yourself, even when others doubt you. You have to keep working toward your dreams, even when progress feels agonizingly slow. Because here's what I've learned: success is not about avoiding failure. Success is about continuing despite failure. Strength is not about never falling down. Strength is about getting back up every single time you fall. Courage is not about not being afraid. Courage is about being afraid and taking action anyway. You have everything you need within you right now to take the next step. You might not have everything you need to reach your final destination, but you have everything you need to move forward from where you are. And that's all you need to do. Just take the next step. Stop looking for someone to give you permission to pursue your dreams. Give yourself permission. Stop waiting for someone to tell you that you're good enough. Decide for yourself that you're worthy of your own efforts. Stop hoping that someone will rescue you from your circumstances. Become your own rescue mission. The world desperately needs what you have to offer. The world needs your unique perspective, your particular gifts, your specific experiences. The world needs you to stop hiding behind your fears and start sharing your light. The world needs you to stop waiting for perfect timing and start making the absolute most of right now. But most importantly, you need this. You need to discover what you're truly capable of. You need to find out how strong you really are. You need to learn that you are more resilient, more creative, more powerful than you ever imagined. You need to prove to yourself that you don't need external rescue because you are perfectly capable of internal rescue. Your life is not a dress rehearsal. This is not a practice round. This is the real thing, and you are the star of your own show. You get to decide whether it's a tragedy or a triumph. You get to choose whether you're the victim or the hero. You get to determine whether your challenges define you or refine you. I am sitting here in my wheelchair, looking out at all of you. And I want you to know something. I am not inspirational because of what happened to me. I am inspirational because of what I chose to do with what happened to me. You have that exact same choice available to you right now, today, in this very moment. Whatever you're facing, whether it's a physical challenge, an emotional struggle, a financial difficulty, a relationship problem, a career setback, or any other obstacle, you have the power to choose your response. You have the ability to decide what this experience will mean in your life story. You have the strength to determine whether this will be the chapter where you gave up, or the chapter where you discovered what you're truly made of. The cavalry is not coming. The rescue mission is not en route. The perfect timing is not going to arrive. The ideal conditions are not going to magically materialize. But you know what? You don't need any of those things. You never did. You just thought you did because no one ever told you the truth. You are enough right now, just as you are with what you have. You are enough to begin. You are enough to take the first step. You are enough to try something new. You are enough to start that business, write that book, have that difficult conversation, make that change, pursue that dream. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to be guaranteed success. You just need to be willing to begin. And once you begin, something magical happens. You discover that beginning was the hardest part. Once you start moving, momentum builds. Once you take action, confidence follows. Once you prove to yourself that you can take one step, you realize you can take another and another and another. Before you know it, you'll look back and realize that you've traveled further than you ever thought possible. You'll see that you've overcome obstacles you once thought were insurmountable. You'll understand that you've become someone you didn't even know you could be. That journey starts today. That journey starts right now. That journey starts with you accepting this truth. No one is coming to save you. But that's okay, because you don't need to be saved. You need to be awakened. You need to be reminded of the power that has always resided within you. You need to be encouraged to use the strength you've always possessed. I am not here to save you. I am here to remind you that you can save yourself. I am not here to give you power. I am here to help you remember the power you already have. I am not here to fix your problems. I am here to inspire you to develop the skills to fix your own problems. Because when you learn to save yourself, you don't just change your own life. You change the lives of everyone around you. When you discover your own strength, you give others permission to discover theirs. When you become your own hero, you prove that heroism is possible for anyone willing to choose it. So my question for you today is this: what are you waiting for? What permission are you seeking? What perfect moment are you anticipating? What rescue are you hoping will arrive? Stop waiting. Start working. Stop hoping. Stop wishing. Start becoming. Your life is calling you. Your dreams are calling.